good people of the internet, fans of Magic the Gathering, and subscribers, at least I hope, to the Great Nate channel on YouTube, welcome back. Today we're going to be doing another Q&A style video. There was a good question on the comments of a recent YouTube video, and it talks about an area of contention, something that has been often discussed in the community, something I've talked about, I have strong opinions on, and thought I'd go ahead and answer it. So let's take a look. The question is from Jeff Osborne, and Mark has also sort of provided some information there. Jeff wants to know mainly two things. Should I run Serum Visions or should I run Anticipate? And he also wants to know if Jeskai Geist is a tempo deck. So let's work up from the bottom. What kind of deck is Jeskai Geist? Well, Jeskai Geist is an aggro control deck, and that would be the major archetype. Now, a tempo deck would be like a sub-archetype or a sub-thing of aggro control, but the truth is that tempo is really just something that decks can generate. Tempo is, it's not as straightforward as, say, the concept of card advantage, but once you realize, once you understand how to think about it, it's easy to identify when it comes into play or when it happens. Tempo is like, it's not opportunity cost. Tempo is sort of like potential. The potential to do something. And if that something happens, or is rather, if that something is negated in a way, then the person who's negating it has generated a tempo advantage. And some decks can capitalize on that tempo advantage. Now, Jeskai is an aggro control deck. Sometimes it's controlling, sometimes it's aggressive. Now, the historical way of the historical definition of aggro control would be like a Delver deck. It's aggressive early, and then it tries to disrupt the opponent's game plan with counterspells and generate tempo that it uses to its advantage by attacking with Delver of Secrets. The thing is that it is an aggro control deck. So is Jeskai Geist, but Jeskai is different. Jeskai Geist is different. It doesn't deploy an early threat. It can with Snapcaster Mage, and it can bolt early, and it has ways to be aggressive early, but it's not as good at capitalizing on a tempo advantage as Delver of Secrets is, those type of decks. That's why I don't run 4-mans in my Jeskai Geist decks, because a tempo advantage is only meaningful if you can capitalize on it, and I'll explain. So let's look at how you can generate tempo and take advantage of it in a Jeskai midrange, Jeskai Geist deck. So let's say you have a Geist of St. Traft in play, and you have open mana, and your opponent wants to resolve a Siege Rhino. So they tap 4 mana, cast Siege Rhino, and you remand it. Well, you have generated tempo, because they had the potential, as I said earlier, to put the Siege Rhino in play. They had the potential to do something with 4 mana. So they executed, they tapped 4 mana, they cast Siege Rhino, and you remand their spell. So they have done nothing. Well, that nothing that they did, the negation of their attempt to do something is the tempo generation, or that is generating a tempo advantage, because they had the potential and they did something and you stopped them from doing it. Now, you could do it with Mana Leak too. You're also generating a tempo advantage with Mana Leak, but Remand is kind of the best example because they still keep the spell and you draw a card. So your card acceleration you continue to draw cards. And it's also really great because if they do the same thing next turn and you Snapcaster Mage Remand, then you're now getting card advantage. Now, let's say that you don't have a Geist in play and you just remand their spell. well, you have generated tempo advantage, but unless you're able to convert that tempo advantage or capitalize on that tempo advantage into something meaningful, which in this case would be a reduction in their life total, you haven't actually really done anything. Sure, you've drawn a card and you've slowed them down, but it's not nearly as good as if you've generated tempo advantage with a Geist in play and now you're attacking them. So another way that you can generate tempo, or another example of generating tempo, is, say, Lightning Helix. Let's say you're battling against Zoo and they attack with 2 Wild Nacatls. Well, let's say that they attack and you Lightning Helix 1. Well, you're killing 1, but you're also generating some tempo, generating a tempo advantage, because you're negating what they did with their Wild Nacatl. So let's say that they didn't do anything else with their turn. That attack, what they had the potential to do is 6 damage. And the damage that they end up doing that turn is basically 0. Because the life you gain from Lightning Helix negates that attack that they made with Wild Nacatl. So there's a bunch of different ways that you can identify when tempo is at work, or when a tempo advantage is being generated. And one way to think about it is just, what is the potential to do something that turn, and were you successful in what you did? Because if you attempt to do something and then that something is countered in some way or negated in some way, then the person who's doing the negation has generated tempo. The reason Delver decks are so much better at taking advantage of the tempo generation is because their threat comes down so early. Geist doesn't come down till later. Geist actually technically could come in play after you've remanded something. So is Geist, is it a tempo deck? Sometimes. It has the ability to generate tempo and then capitalize on that advantage. It's not a spell you'd see very much, but it's just another example is, let's say that you're attacking for 6 and your opponent's attacking you for 6, and you're just trying to win a damage race. Well, let's say that you attack, they don't block, but before damage, let's say they attack you for 6, boom. You attack back for 6 and cast Jeskai Charm. Geist is getting through. You're going to gain 8 life, +1/+1 and lifelink. Their previous attack never happened. In fact, not only did their attack not happen, but you gained 2 more life than their attack did. That has generated tempo. And the way that you're capitalizing on it is you're continuing to kill them with Geist of St. Traft. So that's just another example of how a tempo advantage could happen. That doesn't necessarily involve remanding a spell or killing something. So that would be, one way you might heard of it is a tempo swing. Now you're going to be far ahead on the damage race. So I hope that answers that question. Jeskai Geist is an aggro control deck. It's often it can either be aggressive or controlling, and depending upon the deck that it's facing and the spot that the game is in, the deck has a potential to generate a tempo advantage, and capitalize on it. It doesn't always have to be with Geist. If you have a click and play and they try to play Siege Rhino and you remand it, you are generating a tempo advantage that you're going to capitalize on by attacking with Vendilion Click. Okay, so I think I've sort of beat that one to death. The second thing is Serum Visions versus Anticipate. I mean, to me, it's not even close. They both look at 3 cards, and Serum Visions is half the cost of Anticipate. But not only do they look at 3 cards, Serum Visions is way more flexible than Anticipate. Serum Visions allows you scry 2. Leave this on top, put them this way, put them that way, put them both on the bottom, put one on the bottom is way better than what you're doing with Anticipate. And there's a phrase in Legacy, the best brainstorm is the one you never cast. And that just means that the potential to look at the top of your deck at instant speed and do things is, in a lot of ways, much better than actually doing it. Because if you can win the game without doing it, you always have that option available to you. Now, Serum Visions is not brainstorm, and I shouldn't even be comparing them. But kind of similarly, if you can hit your land drops and play your spells and do your things without casting Serum Visions, then that's great. There's no reason to cast it. But it's there when you need it. And Serum Visions just, it's also really great with Snapcaster Mage. It can be a source of card advantage. Being able to manipulate the top of your deck is huge. Being able to make your deck more consistent is huge. Being able to find copies of Path to Exile when you need them for big creatures is huge. Being able to, in a recent game, I cast Serum Visions, drew a land, saw 2 lands on top that I didn't want to draw, was able to scry those to the bottom. That's awesome. What if they were off spells I did want? Well, now I get to draw a card and set up my draws for the next turn. Whereas Anticipate, you're going to draw a card and you're still kind of in the dark as to what you're going to draw. It's not even close. Serum Visions is way better than Anticipate. It's way more flexible. It's not that some decks wouldn't want to run Anticipate. I can't necessarily think of any, maybe combo decks. But if I'm running a mid-range deck, I'm 100% going to run Serum Visions. At least 2 or 3. Right now I'm running 3. Part of the reason is, we don't always cast it on 1 because we have Celestial Colonnade. And it's a number that I think fits in the deck well. It could be a mistake. Maybe I'm supposed to run 4. But yeah, Anticipate's not even close. Maybe if I was running a Jeskai control deck, I might not run Serum Visions, although you could make an argument for running 1 or 2. But I'm probably more likely to be concerned about card advantage, and I'm probably going to want to run 2 or 3 Think Twice. Probably not even going to run Anticipate. I may also just have more cantrips in that. If I was playing Jeskai control, I'd love to be able to run 4 Electrolyze. So yeah, I guess that kind of, I think that answers the questions. Let me look at the comments and see if there's anything I left out here. Yeah, so I think that answers it all. Today is Wednesday. It is February 3rd. I just finished recording the last match in the recent league where I was playing Jeskai Geist. So I don't think I'm going to post this today because I already posted the Jeskai Pyromancer deck tech in a video. So I don't know, I'll probably post this tomorrow. Anyway, guys, as always, thanks for watching. Please consider subscribing to my channel. I would greatly appreciate it. If you don't already follow the Spike feed on YouTube, go follow their YouTube channel. I'll be posting content there. And check out the spikefeed.com to find out everything you need to know about their podcast. I'm often on the show, and they do a great job. So see you guys soon. And in the meantime, draw well, smash face. Good luck.